Hey guys, we have an amazing topic today on the book Dopamine Nation by Dr. Anna Lembke. There's three principles we're going to go over. Number one, we're basically all addicts, which I say on my channel, and I believe. Number two, the pleasure pain balance and what that entails. And number three, radical abstinence, which I also participate in. So let's get into it. Super excited for this one. So basically, in the book, Dr. Lemke starts out by saying that we're all addicts, which is true. So it's not a fringe issue. Everyone's susceptible to it because we live in a world engineered for pleasure. There's everything you need at your fingertips: food, sex, drugs, alcohol, vaping, whatever you need, it's there. Scrolling, etc. So basically, the more accessible it is, the higher dopamine sources we engage with, the more likely we are to tip into addiction, which makes sense if you think about it. So it's not just defined, by the way, by like the substance or the behavior, but it's also like compulsion, cravings, consequences, and loss of control. So like if you're feeling compulsiveness towards this stuff, or you're feeling like lack of control, that sort of has to do with the addiction component of it as well, even if you're not straight up fully addicted to it. Now, what else? Now, we live in the most dopamine saturated environments in history. Like no other time in history have we ever been this saturated with by our dopamine receptors. And obviously this is because TikTok, dating apps, energy drinks, Amazon Prime, like FOMO, even productivity hacks, like everything is flooding our brain, and we're just trying to get that like hit of dopamine. Now, this was a really, really, really cool part of her book that talks about the pleasure and pain balance. So basically, what she's saying is that it works like a seesaw, which makes sense. And I always say that everything in life goes on a spectrum. Republican versus Democrat is on a spectrum. Pleasure and pain are on a spectrum. Certainty versus uncertainty on a spectrum. So basically, it works like a seesaw. If you tip too far into pleasure, pain is going to follow. And if you tip, far into pain, pleasure will follow as well. But basically, over time, like you need more of the same stimulus to feel the same high, or you feel worse without it. Because when we bombard our brains with that pleasure, our pain receptors activate in order to try and bring balance. It's literally crazy how the body works, but it just wants homeostasis. And I don't know if you guys learned about this in like seventh grade science class, but I remember learning about homeostasis. And I was like, wow, you know what? That makes total sense. Like our body just wants, it has a balance point, and if it goes too far one way to the or the other, it will kind of kick in to like try and rebalance. So even minor inconveniences can feel like unbearable because our pain tolerance has dropped, right? So the kind of millennial Gen Z tie-in is that like this is what is causing burnout. This is what's causing a mental health crisis. I honestly just, it breaks my heart to even talk about, but the suicide rates in men are, very alarming to say the least, young men, and just like in general too. It's very sad, but that probably ties a lot into dopamine, obviously. But everyone is having a chronic dissatisfaction, directly like tied to the rise of burnout. So, this is kind of becoming like an issue, where, we need more of the same stimulus to feel high, or we feel worse without it. If you're kind of thinking to yourself, why do I feel so numb or anxious, even though nothing is wrong? It's because your brain is compensating for too much pleasure. And that makes so much sense. Like a lot of times, I personally will be like, I have a great life. Like I don't necessarily feel like something specifically is wrong, but like I feel super anxious. And that is like part of it. Now, the third core message of her book, which I think is amazing, is radical abstinence, baby. So basically, one of the most effective ways to reset the pleasure pain balance is by abstaining fully from an addictive stimulus for 30 days. I have done this with alcohol. I've done this with sex. I've done this with drugs. I've done this with so many different things, social media. I've done it. It absolutely works. And the best part is the more you kind of cut it off, the less you engage with it, the higher your tolerance becomes and the more self-aware you become. So this is a very like personal experience for me, but basically with intimacy, I feel like I completely became like abstinent, radically abstinent to it because I wanted to reset how I actually felt about relationships and men and what I actually wanted. So I did a little radical abstinence, and I found that after that experience, or kind of like, in as a result of that experience, I realized that my like tolerance level went down to the point where like I only was like felt actually stimulated by things that made me like aroused or made me feel good. Like, and I noticed my BS meter for like different things that the opposite gender would do went, my bullshit meter like was going off. So it became really easy to like identify different patterns that I had become accustomed to because I radically abstain from it. And of course, it's hard at times, or you can get lonely, which is another reason that we do these types of things. Like the reason we don't want to give up drinking is because we don't want to feel lonely. We don't want to feel like we can't, societally, like interact with others. We want to be able to go out. We want to be social. So there's a lot of reasons. Social media, we don't want to have FOMO, we don't want to like not be able to be on social media. So it totally makes sense why radical abstinence is difficult, and I know firsthand that it's very difficult, but it resets your dopamine receptors and it allows your body to recalibrate. It allows your biomarkers in your body to like recalibrate and be given a break and recharge. Okay, our body is like a phone. We have a charging system built in, and if our battery is dead, we're not going to be able to function the way that we are supposed to. When you're in a sauna or you're in the sun and your phone says like the iPhone needs to cool down, it's literally telling you take it out of the sun, take it out of the heat. We're very similar in that way. So another part of radical abstinence is radical honesty. And this is so hard, but it's so key. You have to be absolutely honest with yourself. I had a friend text me today. I texted her asking her if she was going to do something, go to this conference, and she gave an opinion that was like, some could be seen as negative. Like basically, she didn't say if she said she's not going, and then she gave like a negative opinion on it. And she ended up texting me a few days later and being like, "Hey, I just want to like call out that I had a negative response to that, and you didn't even like ask me my opinion, and I've noticed that I can tend to be more negative, and so it's something I'm working on, so I wanted to like apologize." And I literally thought that is like the most W friend. Like that is the fucking coolest chick and the coolest like friend I want to be around, because it shows that they are self-aware. And we've all had those friends, we've all been that friend where we don't realize like the problem we have that kind of affects like the friend group or affects our relationships. Like you might have a drinking problem, you might have an anger problem, you might have like an impulsive problem where like you're just like affecting others and it's like very uncomfortable. I used to be a very like angry person and like flip out, and now I feel like I'm like over chill and like amicable because I'm like very like not embarrassed by what I used to do, but yeah, it's kind of crazy. So yeah, with all that being said, this radical abstinence is, we live in a culture that we do glorify moderation, or we preach moderation, but we don't want to preach abstinence. I'm a huge proponent of abstinence. I think if you can do it with every stimulus in your life, food, like drinking, social media, the opposite gender, cut yourself off from the opposite gender, and you will see results from yourself. Not forever, but just if you feel like you're in and out of relationships constantly, or you're constantly entertaining people, or you're constantly on dating apps, give your brain a break. Like your brain doesn't want to be on a dating app, I promise you. I know you don't even want to be on a dating app. So just like give it a rest, just delete them. You're going to be fine. You'll find another stimulus, but just let it go for a bit. So Just wanted to talk about those 3 points again. Dopamine Nation, written by Dr. Anna Lemke, super dope. Main points are we're all addicts. There is a pleasure and pain balance that we have to be aware of, and that radical abstinence is the go and is the way, the truth, and the light to reset your dopamine receptors. So that's all, guys. Hope this was enjoyable, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.